Good afternoon and welcome to the public board meeting of the Lethbridge School Division Board of Trustees for May 26, 2026. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy and acknowledge the signatories of Treaty 7, the Métis people and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. Lethbridge School Division staff and students living and benefiting from Blackfoot Confederacy traditional territory honor the traditions of people who have cared for this land since time immemorial. Lethbridge School Division also acknowledges all Indigenous students, staff, and families who have helped shape and continue to strengthen our school community in the past, present, and in the future. On our agenda, we move to number 3, the consent agenda. Are there any items that are being requested to move from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, we move to the approval of the agenda. I'm looking for any amendments or additions to the agenda. One note that I would like to make is for 11.11, access to information and privacy protection policy update. We're going to put a timestamp of 4:15 on that, just because we have some guests joining us for that memo, and so we'll just make a note of that there. Are there any other amendments? Cheryl.
I would like to add an item under the action items for a motion on the YMCA Galbraith Elementary School project.
YMCA Galbraith will be 11.2. Are there any other additions? 11.12, thank you. Sorry, my apologies for that. Are there any other items? All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended, please. Christina, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Now we go to number 5, approval of the minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve. Christina, thank you. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, those in favor? And that is carried. There is no business arriving from the minutes, and so we move to the Associate Superintendent reports. 7.1, business and operations. Kyle.
Thank you. So quick update from business and operations. One of the projects we've been working on the past couple of months is the bell time. So just a little public announcement on the bell times. So for the schools which have division busing attached to it, you will see in here. So this does exclude schools such as Vic Park, Winston Churchill, and Emmanuel Christian and Lethbridge Christian, as they do have alternative transportation solutions. So they aren't necessarily tied as directly to the bell times for those. So for the purpose, those have been excluded from here. There's no change. But through community feedback at the school level, division level, parent level, teacher level, we have been able to make some changes to the bell times in consultation with our transportation partner, Southland, who was great to work with on this project. So we do have the bell times for the 26-27 school year listed in the report. Anything which is highlighted in blue is noted as changed for next year. So you'll see the change is limited to our elementary schools. Next item in the report, we do have budget 26, budget 27. So the preliminary draft budget was presented to the trustees and publicly yesterday at our budget deliberations meeting, and that budget was approved by the trustees. So we are in the process of submitting that to Alberta Education before the May 31st deadline. In that budget, there is the funding for the class size reduction grant. On a provincial level, as we're aware of, they did announce $200 million to reduce class sizes K-9 for the 26-27 school year. Lethbridge School Division did receive approximately $3.8 million in allocated funding. And just for reference to the list of all the schools in all the divisions and their allocation for the province is listed in the link in the report as well. couple of updates on some projects. The LCI cooling tower, we did experience some delays in that project, but what we did was put some temporary solutions in there. So they do have temporary cooling in that building right now. The total project is expected to be up and running at the end of June there. So there's some delays with parts required due to modifications in the unit. Once it was put to the building, what was originally planned had to be adjusted based on the retrofit. So again, there is a temporary unit that is up and running in that building right now. And finally, another good news update for the 26-27 school year. We're looking at internet speeds. The technology department is currently planning to up internet speeds at our our elementary schools from 100 megabytes to 1 gigabyte, which is approximately a 10 times increase. Middle and high schools are currently already at the 1 gig, so having the 1 gig across the division, we'll see some improvements next year, largely due to the increased traffic we're seeing on our network as we use more technology every day. So just a bit of good news update for next year as well. Happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyle. Are there any questions for Kyle? All right, seeing none, thank you for your report. Thank you for the continued good work that you are doing for our division. We move on to 7.2, instructional services. Morag.
Thank you. I will keep this update quite brief because the information is here in front of you. Of course, we did spotlight this month as promised, Steve Comm, Counseling Coordinator, and just provide a real thorough guide around the level of support and commitment we have towards wellness. When you start to really look at the comprehensive scaffolding from classroom support all the way to systemic support, it really is evident that our division prioritizes wellness, and thought it would be really nice just to clarify each of the levels and what we do with regard to health promotion and wellness in our entire system. As you can see, just lots of dates in all of our departments. Thought it was important for the board just to receive those dates and know the level of busyness that's going on under each of our coordinators' portfolios. And essentially, that is my report for this month.
Thank you, Morag. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Morag. Are there any questions for Morag? Allison.
I have a couple of questions. So the first one is in regards to the meeting in Edmonton for the Inclusive Education Policy Framework, knowing and understanding that that impacts us as governors. Can you provide us any information about how that went?
The content of the meeting was embargoed, so I can't share the ins and outs of how it proceeded. It was exciting for me as a professional because I was a part of the Setting the Direction in 2008, which was hosted by the government. And at that time, they were intending to update the special education guidelines, which never were eventually updated. So fast forward approximately 20 years, got to be a part of the conversation again. I think if I can just share, the government is hungry to update those standards, and they are hopefully rolling those out in September. Beyond that, I can't share much more.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Allison.
I have a few. Where was my next one? Just in regards to, now I got to see where it is. The Inclusive Education Parent Advisory. Now I can't find it, but anyways, I know that we've talked about it previously, and you said that it's available on the website for people to go and look and see. Why can't I find my notes? Anyways, the request is people are not necessarily able to find it, and when the panel was set up, the intention was that it would allow more dialogue amongst the inclusive education community. And I'm hearing from parents that aren't feeling that over the last 2 years that exists or is there, and that they're having difficulties even finding anything in regards to it. So just looking to look at the broader inclusive education community and how they're feeling that they're part of, or that there is something done on their behalf when there hasn't really been anything out there for others. So that would be that. And I don't know if you have an answer to that, but I can move on to my last piece, which is just around the playground communication boards. So super exciting to see that in there. And I know that it says that details are being finalized, but do you have any information to share with us in regards to where did the funding come from for it, or what follow-up or communication will happen so that others are able to use that and interact with our kiddos that are needing it? And I think that this definitely provides some great inclusion for all kids on the playground. And I think that it's awesome and amazing. And I think that for us to highlight that, and especially within our city, I think that it's amazing because our community uses our playgrounds outside of school hours as well. So I think to highlight this piece is really important and exciting. So.
You kind of covered the bases other than the funders, and I can get back to you on that information, Allison. It is an exciting project that Rochelle and Carly both were part of with our principals. So yeah, thank you so much.
Do you know if there's any plans to like maybe have Garrett do a story or something, just so that it is like, I think that it's exciting to be shared. And I think that I talk often about us celebrating our great stories. And I think that this is one of them. So I would
Garrett's nodding.
Hope to see if we can do a story and share, and maybe invite other media to come, because I do think that this is great work. However it came about, I think it's great and should be acknowledged. So thank you.
Kyle, your hand is up.
Yeah, I can add to that, just because working on the installation of that. So we are working with our city joint use committee on kind of where that goes. We're just being mindful when we put them in, we're not putting them in over like an irrigation line or something like that, right? So yeah, that's kind of where the installation phase is right now.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Morag? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Morag, for your report. 7.3 is the Human Resources Report. Robbie has stepped out momentarily and will be back later, so the report is there for your information, and we will open up for opportunity for questions to Robbie later on in the meeting. All right, we move on to number 8, Superintendent Reports. Mike, 8.1 through 8.5.
Okay, and I'll just kind of keep rolling through unless there's questions, and so stop me at any time. Otherwise, I'll just go through the various reports. Okay, I'll hit a few highlights on the assurance priorities report, and later on we'll approve, or the board will have an opportunity to look at the assurance plan. And this is just a reminder. This is about really connecting and aligning the organization. So we do the assurance plan, but making sure on a regular basis we are updating trustees and the public on actions that we are taking to meet the goals and the outcomes and the measurements within the assurance plan. So I'll just hit a few highlights under resource allocation. It says human resources actively engaged in staffing with both teacher and support staff recruitment underway. It is a very busy time for the HR department, but it's also a very busy time for our schools. And because obviously the school sites and the various departments that are hiring, they're doing a lot of the work in terms of reviewing resumes, interviewing candidates, that sort of thing. So it has to be said, a thank you, of course, to the HR department, but also to our schools who are doing a lot of the work right now, and specifically school administration. It is a great example of how busy this time of year is, where we're trying to do all of the things for May and June and wrap up this year in a good way, but also make sure that we're prepared for next year. So working really hard on that. It's a lot, and really appreciate all the work that everyone's putting in. And then, Kristen, if you keep on scrolling on Indigenous student achievement, we had at Chinook, we had our Indigenous grad event, and that was absolutely fantastic. What an incredible turnout. I think that might have been the biggest crowd I've seen at one so far. So really, really well done. And then we've got on May 28th, our Indigenous Awards event. And, you know, I would anticipate we'll have a pretty large crowd for it. We definitely had a large crowd last year. So really excited about all of that. As we scroll down to responding effectively to student needs, I wanted to highlight Lori's work on the May 19th PL Day, and really just if you actually look at the next page, professional growth, there are like a lot of bullet points there. We normally try and condense this report a little bit, but with the May 19th Professional Learning Day, a lot of that learning happened at the school level, but also the Ed Center plays a big role in that, and our folks like Lori and Carmen and Jody Babke and Aaron Herkett, et cetera, Rochelle, Carly are all leading professional learning, and this building is usually hopping pretty good on those PL days. So just really appreciate that, and it's a great example of the system level working together very closely with school and classroom teams to make sure our kids have the best opportunities and learning available. Then under professional growth, again, there's a lot here, and really appreciate all the work that's being done. I see that some of our site-based techs completed some training. If you have questions about this certification, I cannot answer them. I don't know. All I know is clearly that it was very challenging. It took over a year, and it's really just a great example of their dedication. Our tech team is a small team, but it's a mighty team, and they do a lot of work to keep not only the technology working, but also our network safe and our kids safe and all that sort of thing. So really appreciate it. And then you'll see a little later, it talks about Aaron Herkett and Jody Babke and the work that they're doing for some of the grade 7 to 9 curriculum changes that are coming in. You will hear some concerns about, workload and that sort of thing related to curriculum, because it is a lot of work to bring in curriculum, and I wouldn't want to sugarcoat it to the board. That's just the truth of the matter. And for public out there, they don't necessarily you don't see that behind the scenes work that teachers have to do to take that curriculum, those words and guidance on paper, and turn them into meaningful learning activities, and then, create assessments that really align with the curriculum and the objectives, and then provide really good feedback based on how students are doing with those related to those objectives. So it is very discrete, very, very complex work. And so it takes time to do it well. And that's why I've always appreciated the board really advocating with government to make sure that we're slowing down a little bit on curriculum change and making sure we do it well, because it's also a great opportunity to really align our practice nicely. And I know, there's definitely concerns about curriculum change. Those of us who've been through a curriculum change, we know it's challenging, but I also know there's really good work being done, and there's excitement because there's good opportunity to collaborate and that sort of thing. And I talk all the time about creating more vertical integration within the system. So, grade 7, understanding what they need in grade 8 and really focusing on that, and as you move all the way through the system. So lots of really good work done there. It's going to be hard work, but I think together we'll get it figured out and do a really good job on it. In terms of safe and caring culture, it must be Fleetwood Bodden Elementary School Day. They're going to be here doing a presentation, and also just wanted to highlight publicly that they're going to be recognized for the Betty Grigg Inclusive Education Award, which highlights schools with or organizations with great inclusive practices. I know that they were nominated by members of the community, by parents in the community, and so just incredibly happy. I actually popped by today to talk a little bit with the administration and congratulate them personally, and they were very excited. And the one thing that they emphasized to me is the great work that the staff does there and how committed they are to doing everything they can to make sure every kid has the best educational opportunity they can get. So yeah, really excited for them, and that's a pretty cool thing. And then if we go to the end, successful early start for students. the early education programs hosted pop-ins for children and families that are new and get an opportunity to explore the spaces, that sort of thing that they're going to be in next year. And I just wanted to tie that in back to our town hall conversation, because this is a great example of town hall feedback, because the town hall feedback was very consistent that, you know, if we can get our kids in early and they get an opportunity to have an orientation and it can be personalized, that sort of thing, that really makes those transitions much more effective. And there's a great example of that feedback in practice and actually happening in the division. So thought that would be a good one to highlight. And I'm going to move on unless there's questions on the assurance priorities.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm not sure if this is best for you or for Robbie, but I think it's the section on resource allocation. I think it's very good news for our division that we are going to be adding 38 teachers and 20 educational assistants from our start last year. And as there's some chatter, you know, in the ether about a shortage of teachers, do you forecast that the division is going to have any problem hiring all of that staff?
It's a great question. We believe we'll be able to hire those staff. It's going to be a little tricky in a couple areas. First of all, just the timing. It's the end of May. Ideally, we would have been in this spot 4 or 5 weeks ago, but we're not. So, you know, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. You know, we generally speaking have pretty robust applicant pools for sort of core teaching classes, that sort of thing. We don't expect this to be any different this year. It might be a little bit trickier, but even if you look back to the complexity teams that we filled in February, we were able to fill many of those in days and weeks, including EAs. Traditionally, the educational assistance positions have been a little harder to fill. We've had good success this year. We're very fortunate to be, one of the things that Lethbridge, we're very, very fortunate is because we have the University of Lethbridge, which has an outstanding faculty of education program. There tends to be more teachers around in the area. So yeah, we might have a few challenges. I don't expect that, you know, there'll be significant challenges. I think the challenge is more the work end of it, but I could prove to be wrong. The market always changes a little bit, but traditionally that hasn't been a huge issue for us. Yeah, fingers crossed. Right.
Stina.
I just wanted to point out and shout out there's a mention in the professional development section about the learning that our caretaking staff undertook as well. And I think that's often like an under noticed area that all of our teams continue to be lifelong learners. So I just want to appreciate that team for continuing to invest in their staff for our student safety as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment. And, you know, as a school division, we should do professional learning well, because we're all professional, many of us are professional educators, and so that should be ingrained in the culture, whether your role is as a professional educator or not. So yeah, that's a really good point. And I know our caretaking staff, you want to see a group of people that are learners. They are definitely that, and very talented at their jobs, and definitely people that want to learn. So thanks for that. Yeah. Okay, I'll keep on rolling. Our donations and support, just once again, I'm going to say this every time, I'm always incredibly grateful, and I think our schools were overwhelmed with the support that we have from the community. And here's two great examples: the Friends of Nicholas Sharon School Society, you know, providing money for learning commons, teacher classrooms, events through the year, and a number of other items. And then Wilson Middle School, you know, getting money from for their music programs. Just absolutely awesome. And these things go directly to kids and are certainly going to have a positive impact on them. So as always, to the community of Lethbridge, thank you. This is a very generous community, and our schools, and most importantly our students, benefit greatly from that. So thank you. Then we'll go into acknowledgement of excellence. Yeah, and we'll start off with Coalbanks Elementary, where their motto is kids come first, and certainly something that they believe in. And, you know, some real highlights for their academic performance, for their assurance survey results. It was good because I wasn't here when Coalbanks first opened up, and I wasn't exactly sure what the COBRA acronym was. So, I really appreciated that. I should have known it, I just didn't. As C stands for citizenship, O is for outstanding effort, B is for bravery, R is for responsible, and A is for academic. And certainly you can see that throughout their report here. And some really nice information on literacy and numeracy intervention and the process that they're doing. And again, it goes back to that whole idea of curriculum, that we do instruction, then we assess, and then based on that assessment, we react to that and we support kids where we need it. And they really outline that nicely. And then I know they talk about their year-end barbecue. Joey just sent us, unfortunately, it's happening on the next board meeting, so probably we're not going to be able to make it. But if you get an opportunity to go to the Coalbanks year-end barbecue, it's always an awesome celebration. Colby the Cobra usually shows up, which is always great, and just a huge turnout. I really appreciated this comment on the West Side boundary review and the changes. Coalbanks, went from 600 students to in the 400 range, and it's always tough to lose staff, to lose students, to lose families. However, there are positives and silver lining, and I know the school is very appreciative of having the full use of their building back, which has really been nice for them. So Wilson Middle School, in the first paragraph here, it talks about how they're welcoming their incoming grade 6 students and families and holding an open house. And again, just to pull that back to town hall, that's one of the things that the feedback that we got in town hall is the importance of those transitions and personalizing that and getting students into the building. And so you can see that happening in our schools for sure this time of year. And then once again, you can see at middle school, there's a real emphasis on providing students with a lot of opportunities to experience different things, to explore new things. And you can see the fine arts, the athletics, the academics, all in here, and all the opportunities that they really try and provide for their students. And then we'll go to Victoria Park High School and the work that they do, and the Lethbridge Alternative Programs, supporting roughly 400 students. Which is absolutely awesome. And, they talk about creating a place to belong and part of something larger than the individuals themselves. And that's very much Victoria Park. They're very much about personalizing the experience for the students, but also making sure they create a community out of that. And just wanted to highlight the addition of the drop-in music program, which is supported by the University of Lethbridge. So they have instruments, that sort of things, and kids can come in and learn and experiment. It's a great example. I talked yesterday in the budget conversation about how we do work with our partners, and University of Lethbridge has been a great partner in this space for us. And the driver experience program, if you don't know about that, there's another example of the community really stepping up to provide for our kids, so they have an opportunity. The community got cars for the kids so they can practice driving and get their driver's license and all that sort of thing. And from everything I know, I've never been on one of the drives. I probably should go one time. That'd be fun. But from my understanding is it's been incredibly well received, incredibly beneficial for our kids, and just another great example of how our community just steps up when there's a need. Okay, and then we'll go to school graduations. And thank you to Kristen for putting these dates together. So if there's anything that you're aware of that we're missing on here, then by all means let us know so we can get the date corrected. So you can see these, especially June 25th is going to be a very busy day because Winston Churchill, Chinook, and Emmanuel Christian Secondary School all have their graduations that day. So a number of us I know will be at all of them, and certainly just want to say the grads are such a great part of our role. It's just awesome to see the kids and how happy and excited they are, and have them share that moment with them a little bit. And then of course Victoria Park also has theirs. They do theirs a little differently. It's very individualized, but if you get an opportunity to stop by, it's absolutely outstanding. Then you'll see that there's some school-based recognition going on for the Friends of 51. Again, that theme of how the community supports us. And then school service awards, you'll see all of them in here, and you'll see that June 25th is a hopping busy day. So you'll be able to find something to do on that day. I'm pretty confident on that. Okay, and then calendar of events, as always, if there's anything, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Under the school service awards, if there's a school that's not listed, because I see it looks like almost all of them, is there a chance that we're missing one?
We can check on that. Yeah,
Okay.
make sure.
Just I
Yeah.
don't see Emmanuel Christian Secondary School.
Gotcha.
So I didn't know if they just don't have any or if they're just haven't said anything yet.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Thank you.
Kristen, can you? Okay. Okay. Yeah, Kristen, just for the public, Kristen said they're still missing a few schools. So I assume we'll be updating the trustees on those. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Okay, and then calendar events. I know the trustees are really good at catching any dates or anything else that needs to be added in here. So if there's anything that we're missing, then by all means, let us know.
Brooke.
Yes, we're having another community conversations on June 9th at the Henderson Lake picnic area.
Perfect. Thank you, Brooke. Can you tell us the time?
It'll be 6 to 8 and longer if it's a nice evening.
Poverty Intervention Committee will be May 28th as well.
Sorry, was there another date out there?
June 3rd is the Facilities Committee.
And if you could strike the June 3rd Policy Advisory Committee, they're not meeting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. All right, on to the board chair's report. The first item is the Idea Store 2026 Education Panel. This is the inaugural year of the Idea Store. It's hosted by the Critical Thinking and Engagement Lab of the University of Lethbridge. It's still ongoing through till May 30th. And I was invited to participate on a panel discussion on the future of K-12 education in Lethbridge. So other panelists were Derek Ressler, president of the ATA Local 41, Dr. Thelma Gunn, professor at the University of Professor of Educational Psychology in the Faculty of Education at the U of L. And then there was also, that is not included in my memo, Kevin Macbeth. So he's ATA member, high school social studies teacher, an ATA rep for political engagement. And it was a great conversation that we had at the Penny Building downtown, and just some of the conversation topics that we spoke to were the mental wellness of our teaching staff, and it was some really good insights from other panelists. We were discussing the difference between the challenges staff are facing and the burnout that they're feeling, and perhaps the difference between burnout versus deep grieving of where our system is at. And where they're wishing the system to be in that grieving, moving from not just staff, but students, members of the community. It's as a societal issue. Of course, we spoke to the value of public education and the value of mentorship with our teachers and how that contributes significantly to the mental health of our teachers. Are there any questions on that item? Okay, moving forward to 9.2, empowering change, advancing diversities and collaboratives. I attended a virtual professional development session last week hosted by Tamarack Institute and titled Empowering Change, Advancing Diversities and Collaboratives. And so the workshop objectives are here in the memo. It was a really incredible learning opportunity to connect with other professionals from across Canada on the use of self-reflection and exploring relational tactics in bringing out voices that aren't always heard. And I know this has been a conversation around the board table and in our division of how do we create welcoming spaces for all voices, and how do we ensure all members of our community feel invited and welcome and safe. And so I'm looking forward to having further discussion and possibly introducing some of the activities that we did to the board in future times. Are there any questions on this? All right, and then next, 9.3, just a brief update. I spoke at the Community Issues Committee on May 19th, and a motion was put forward by the Community Issues Committee. That motion is there before you on the memo, and that is to disband the current joint committee of the City of Lethbridge and Lethbridge School Boards, and thank the members for their service on this committee, and to appoint councillors Jen Schmidt-Rempel and Parker to the new external joint committee of Lethbridge School Boards in the City of Lethbridge for a term effective immediately and ending at the October 27, 2026 organizational meeting of the City Council. This is a recommendation from Community Issues Committee and will be officially voted on by Council on June 9th. And then this motion was unanimously carried. And so I'll have another memo in the action items of this agenda. Are there any questions? Christina?
Given the importance of our relationship with our other local school divisions and our municipal government, I was wondering if for the public you'd be able to provide maybe like plain language context for the public to understand what we are trying to accomplish with this.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yes. So in June of 2024, City Council began a review of their committees, and during this review there was an administrative recommendation that the Joint City and School Boards Committee be disbanded. And so since that time, Lethbridge School Division, Holy Spirit Catholic School Division, and Franco Sud have been advocating for the continuation of this committee. And so there's been a lot of background work on the feasibility moving forward, and we certainly see the benefit of this committee to ensure that we have continued close relationship with all municipal governors. And this committee is an opportunity to come together to speak to connected advocacy items and related to education that would benefit all community members. Yeah, thank you. All right, we are ahead of schedule. So our first presentation is scheduled for 3:30. So we will move down to 11.3.
I was just, I'll just suggest something really quick.
Certainly.
Yeah. I think 11.3 all the way to 11.10 are doable we won't have people that we need to be here for it. So I think we can work on all those. Yeah.
Excellent. So we will move forward to 11.3, locally developed courses, middle school 25-26, Morag.
It's our favorite time of year, Christina Larkin. So in this edition, what we have included are the 2 levels of authorization of locally developed courses that the board will be required to approve. Just some background for new board members. Locally developed courses allow school authorities in Alberta the flexibility to complement, extend, and or expand upon provincial programs of study. Of course, the benefits are listed in front of you. And so the purpose of these, when a school determines the need for a locally developed course, they're required to submit a course outline to Aaron Herkett, and they must follow the provincial guidelines and fulfill those guidelines, which must include course information, including course name, level expectations, and how students will be assessed. Alberta Education, of course, requires that all locally developed courses, grades 6 to 9, be authorized for use by the Board of Trustees after they've been vetted through Aaron Herkett. As division middle schools and high schools have expanded their educational opportunities for students, it's become necessary to create several locally developed courses to enhance program offerings to students. So as you can see here, there are a list of the courses that need to either be approved because they are new or they're all continuing. So those would be renewed. And so it is a recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the use of these above locally developed courses, grades 6 to 9, in all division middle and high schools from September 1st, 2026 to August 31st, 2030. And this is just for our middle and grade 9s.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Morag. And because they're middle school courses, they can be approved collectively. So I am looking for a motion to begin discussion. Christina.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the use of the above locally developed grade 6 to 9 courses in all division middle and high schools from September 1st, 2026 to August 31st, 2030.
So thank you very much. And I will open it up for comments or questions. Christina.
I was wondering about the course outlines. Given that curricula are available online for the provincially mandated curricula, for the locally developed courses, how can the public access course outline or information for locally developed courses?
They definitely can connect with the schools where these courses are offered.
Thank you.
Cheryl.
Thanks. I have a question about the titling of these courses and the what appears to be duplication. So for instance, history through film at Chinook is titled the same at Winston Churchill. Soccer at Chinook is titled the same at Wilson Middle School. And I'm wondering, is it the same course? And do they share this information?
Yes, they would have the same outline.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Christina.
And for further clarification, my understanding is that in some cases, locally developed courses might be courses that are developed not necessarily within our division, but are developed by divisions within the province that can then be used.
That's at the high school level.
At the high school level, okay. Thank you.
Middle schools vary within the system. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Right, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Craig. I see your hand. All right, we move forward to 11.4, locally developed courses, high school 25 to 26. Morag.
Thank you. So many of these courses are actually provincially created. The name locally developed gives the impression that they've all been created here, but quite often, and actually for all but one of these courses, they are accessed through the provincial directory. So within this edition or the memorandum here, the link is available, so you can see through Alberta Education, they make all of the course outlines available through Alberta's senior high school courses under New Learn Alberta. I'll just kind of review the other pieces here just for your background for those who are new to the board. So when a school authority determines a need for a locally developed course in our high schools, so grade 10 through 12, they're required to submit a request to Alberta Education, and then the local board will approve it for use within the division. This proposal must include course information as well as identification of overlap with authorized courses or community activities. Once submitted, reviewed, and authorized, Alberta Ed will make the course available for use at all Alberta school authorities. And there's always a time period for when we can use it, and then we have to renew it. So many of these courses are also just being renewed rather than being accessed for the first time. I won't go through all of the recommendations because that'll be something that one of the board members will go through piece by piece, but open to any questions you might have related to locally developed courses at our high school level.
Thank you very much. I will look for, are there general questions about the process?
Not about the process, about the courses.
About a specific course? In general? Okay, I will allow a general question.
Okay, so when I'm looking at this list of courses, and it's very robust, and that's a wonderful thing, but I do have a concern about the categorization of these courses. So for instance, if I categorize them, I only see 7 STEM courses, 1 social science course, and 20 humanities and arts courses. And to me, that doesn't seem balanced. And I'm wondering if any thought goes into what that distribution looks like.
Morag.
So these are the courses that just need to be approved and or renewed this year. So there may be an overrepresentation of one discipline over another. This does not include all of the locally developed courses we currently provide. These are only the ones that need to be approved by the board this year.
So you would say that there is balance among the categories of courses generally?
I haven't had a chance to go through every high school and the locally developed courses that they offer. Some schools offer only some of these. Again, this is a division-wide approval process. I definitely can look into that, though.
Thank you, Mike.
Just a little bit of additional context that may not help, but at the high school level, there are specific Alberta curriculum outcomes courses that all students need to take. So there's some that are mandatory all the way up into grade 12, and there is a balance there. And then there are options, but there's options within. So you sort of have to, you can take some sciences. Some of the sciences become optional when you go to grade 11, so you can take chemistry, bio, or physics. You don't necessarily have to take all three. As well, there are various strands on CTS, fine arts, that sort of thing. So there is some balance within the curriculum. And then the locally developed courses augment the sort of standard curriculum from the provincial government. And so you will maybe see a little bit of imbalance. You're probably not going to see, you may not see as much on the humanities end, for example, because students are already taking English language arts and social studies all the way up to grade 12. So some of it depends on how the core curriculum is structured as well.
Christina.
I think it's a good question about like the big picture of all of the locally developed courses that are in use within the division. And I would say also from like my humanities background, there's more differentiation at the higher level in the STEM side in high school in my spirit, like because like you said, like you get biochem physics separated out, whereas social studies stays social studies, whereas in many other jurisdictions you would be like geography, so history would be divided at that level. So I think sometimes there's like a demand for sometimes more of those courses. So I personally wouldn't be surprised if there was more on the STEAM side, the arts and humanities side, as a need for differentiation on that side.
Hey, Christina, can I have you please begin reading the motions? And we will do one at a time and we will vote on them independently.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the continued use of Astronomy 152535, LDC 1947, LDC 2947, LDC 3947 for 3 credits until August 31st, 2030 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor? And that's carried.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize acquisition of Bioethics 25 LDC 2041 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2029 to enhance program offerings to students.
Thank you. Any discussion? Craig is, all of those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the continued use of competencies in Math 15 LDC 1515 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2030 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Any discussion? Those in favor? That's carried.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize acquisition of Engineering and Design 15 LDC 1147 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2028 to enhance program offerings to students.
Any discussion? Those in favor? And that's carried.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the continued use of Guitar 152535 LDC 1568, LDC 2568, LDC 3568 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2030 to provide continuance of programs offerings to students.
Any discussion? Those in favor? And that's carried.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the continued use of Learning Strategies 152535, LDC 1599, LDC 2599, and LDC 3599 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2030 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Any discussion?
Yes. Sorry.
Cheryl.
Can you please tell me why a 3 credit and a 5 credit class has the same course code? Okay.
I will look into that for you.
Any further discussion? Those in favor? That is carried.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the continued use of musical theater performance 152535 LDC 1858, LDC 2858, and LDC 3858 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2030 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Any discussion? Those in favor? That is carried.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the continued use of Psychology Abnormal 35, LDC 3155 for 3 credits until August 31st, 2030 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Any discussion? Those in favor? And that is carried.
I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the continued use of Technical Theater 152535 LDC 1987, LDC 2987, LDC 3987 for 3 and 5 program credits until August 31st, 2030 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Thank you. Those in favor? Oh, sorry. Any discussion? Those in favor? And that is carried. Did you have musical theater performance?
Yeah, sorry, I was just
Okay.
motioned into one. Sorry. I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the continued use of musical theater performance 152535 LDC 15. No, we did that one.
Leadership and arts, I think we missed.
We missed one.
Yeah, leadership in the arts.
Yeah.
What are the numbers? Sorry. Oh, thank you. I move that the Board of Trustees authorize continued use of Leadership in the Arts 35 LDC 3458 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2030 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor? And that is carried. All right, confirming we did musical theater performance. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Mike.
Cheryl, do you want me to speculate on that question about the course codes and 3 credit and 5 credit, or just leave it?
Yeah, it just seems for reference for external bodies that are looking for assessment of those.
Yeah.
It's 2 very different things, but they have the same code.
And with the caveat that I may not have it right, but if I remember correctly, it's just the way the government organizes the courses. And so, for example, Technical Theater 35 is LDC 3987. That's the code that the government assigns to it. And then there's a 5 credit or 3 credit option. So I imagine in the back end, you select the course first, and then you select a 5 credit or 3 credit option, as the student gets credit for it, because it's a pretty large, complex system that needs to feed into the government system, because they issue the actual diplomas. So whatever the government says the course is, that's what we have to do, sort of thing. So, and I would guess that it's just, this is the course number, and then it can either be a 3 credit or a 5 credit. Is my guess. Yeah, they don't make 2 separate courses for 3 or 5 credits. My guess is that's just an organizational thing.
Thank you. All right, we will move forward to 11.5 assurance plan. Mike.
Okay, we're at the assurance plan. All right, and if there's questions, of course, by all means ask. It's pretty much done. I think there's a couple little typos that we need to fix up. But just so you know, so the public knows and the board knows, this was a plan from 2024 to 2027. So the plan writ large hasn't changed a whole bunch. The framework, probably 75 to 80% of it stays the same. And that's intentional. That's not accidental. That's intentional, because it's not ideal to every year be changing your plan and your strategies and your priorities, that sort of thing. It's hard to create alignment and really get movement forward. So that's why most of the framework looks similar. Parts of it just get updated. The area where there is change and where we've kind of changed every year, and I think we're getting closer to getting something settled here. If you go to page 14, Krista, if you're able to, that's the local and societal context domain. So remember, the government in their assurance framework, they have a governance domain, a student growth and achievement domain, teaching and leading, learning supports, and then they have what's called a local and societal context. And that's where divisions kind of have some flexibility and freedom to attend to issues that are local and societal, that are primarily to Lethbridge School Division. So in this case, the board has created, we've narrowed it down to 2 priorities that we have. So one of the priorities is, and I won't say 1 and 2 because they're not in order, they're both the priorities. One of the priorities is students and families choose Lethbridge School Division for their education. And then the other priority is continue to allocate resources intentionally to maximize student learning and success. Those are intentional for our context right now. There's been a lot of talk about resource allocation, and the government had a very large data collection process. We anticipate that data collection process is going to continue. And so I think the board very wisely said, if we're going to be collecting all of this data, we really need to use it to allocate our resources. And so that's why the strategy under that is to use that data to allocate our resources more effectively. And then students and families choose Lethbridge School Division for their education. Really, these strategies and measures are ones that are already in place. They're just a rebranding, refocusing of it. So making sure that we're strengthening our high quality, innovative programming to support student success as a way to encourage families to continue to choose Lethbridge School Division, strengthening confidence in the quality of education through the assurance framework, and then strengthening early learning experiences and transitions to support a successful start to school. And then there's a variety of measures in there. So that's probably the biggest change in the assurance plan, but there's always some little things that change here and there. So if there's questions, then happy to ask those. And then just so you know, the process is, once this is approved by the board, then I let the government know that it has been approved. The government then reviews it. They meet with us and we go through it and make sure that we've completed everything that we've completed and share the story of Lethbridge School Division. And then of course, in the fall, we'll get our results, and then that the cycle continues. We go to results, review our results. That informs our next assurance plan, and away we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. I am looking for a motion to begin discussion. Christina, was your hand up for that?
Yes. I move that the board approve the 26-27 division assurance plan as presented.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Christina.
I mostly wanted to point out to the public, like your point that you want to back up your point of everything kind of flows all together. That the assurance priorities update that the board receives in the superintendent report can be directly connected to this, that we can see like this was the goal and here's what we're doing about it day to day. And I think just to point that out to the public, and in particular to the families of students when they're wondering like, how are we improving their child's education, that these are the goals we set and that we have demonstrated evidence every single month of the work that's going into those priorities. So because I think it can be hard to tell when you're just like in it with your student, all the work that's going into it. So just encouraging people to, as an example, pick a priority that feels important to you from the assurance plan. And then when you check in with the board's update every month, you can just check on what happened on that priority as an idea for engagement. So thank you for your work on this, and thank you to the division for all the hard work that goes into not just setting the priorities, but making them real.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Craig.
Yes. I probably will not vote in favor of the assurance plan because I don't think we've heard I still hear from parents that are concerned about grade 6 and grade 9 going into middle school and going into high school. And I'm not sure that we have adequately looked at their concerns and put them as part of our plan. So that's probably why I won't support this assurance plan.
Thank you, Craig. Are there any other comments? Christina.
In the assurance plan, we also have a section for the board budget beliefs that we've just talked about through the budget process. And I was wondering if the board might be open to, as a takeaway for the board budget committee for 26, 27, doing a little bit of internal work on the board budget beliefs to more effectively align with the assurance plan. The assurance plan is a governance document, and I think to complement and continue the work of aligning our documents, if we could do a little bit of board work to align our board budget beliefs a little bit more clearly with the assurance plan. Like, I think they are generally related, obviously, but some more clear delineation would be beneficial in my opinion. So just looking to see if the board would like to give that to the board budget committee for next year's consideration.
Thank you, Christina. And certainly review of our board budget beliefs is an annual thing. So I would support that work moving forward next year. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, the motion is on the table. Those in favor? And those opposed? Thank you. Please note Trustee Craig Whitehead is opposed. I would like to thank the superintendent and staff who put in all of the time to capture our division story and the work and the priorities of the board and the priorities of the division in this report. I know this was a long process, and it is greatly appreciated. It does help to outline to the public the work that we do. And as Christina so eloquently said, it's a really, it's an excellent guide for the public to look at, to focus on a priority, because it can be overwhelming, but just to see where we sit as a board of our top priorities, and it just helps to guide stakeholders in how and what areas they can engage with us in. So thank you, Mike, and your team for all of the time that you've put into this. All right, we are now, yep. Okay. Okay. Let's see. No, you're good. Okay, if trustees are amenable to this, what I am going to do is I'm going to move forward to number 12, division highlights. And so then we won't have our guests waiting for debate on other action items that we have. So we will move number 12 here and give trustees opportunity to share some highlights that they've had over the past month. Craig, we will start with you today.
Okay, thank you. Attended LCI graduation, and also have watched some rugby and attended the Rugby Sevens provincial final that was hosted by Chinook High School. And I'd just like to take this time to thank and appreciate all the hard work, because Winston Churchill did the 4A boys and girls provincials in basketball. There's a great amount of work that has been done by both schools and by volunteers and by staff. And I just want them to know that as a board, we are very thankful for all the work they do to put these provincial tournaments on.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Craig. Christina, we will move to you.
I also got to attend rugby and realized I don't know the rules of rugby. So that was good. Good learning for me. But I got to attend a few different student activities to celebrate the end of the school year. And it's just always really meaningful to see how our students are celebrating with one another and with the adults in their life who have made their education journey so impactful. So congratulations to a lot of our grads.
Excellent. Thank you. Brooke.
Well, Indigenous grad was something else. I'd never experienced that before. It was It was a really nice evening. The other thing is the community conversations. The last one we had was quite was a really good discussion, and I think to me it spoke to the reason why we do that is for people to say exactly what they want to say. And what I was encouraged about the discussions we had were the other parents that were there and the other parents being able to share their perspective with the other parents. I think it's a really valuable thing we do, and I would certainly like to encourage more people to join us at community conversations because it is that free form flowing conversation. And I think anybody that was in attendance can attest to that. So I just encourage the public to join us on June 9th.
Excellent. Thank you, Brooke. Allison.
Thank you. May and June are always busy months, and certainly appreciate the parents that are still coming out and our administrators and staff that are still coming out to school council meetings. I was able to go to SJF, Senator Buchanan, and Ploxton this month. And track and field, they have exciting lots happening. Zones is coming up this week for them. I was able to go over and watch them at Cities yesterday, so that was great. LCI grad and Indigenous grad, both very great, wonderful events. The one and community conversations, I only got to go to a part of it, but I agree that they're definitely, we need to keep doing them, so that's great. My biggest piece I wanted to talk about was the Friends of 51. And I just think that it was a beautiful day, and we were out on the front lawn here at the division office, and just being able to celebrate what community brings to our division was so important. And I think that it's remarkable to hear, and so many of the pieces that we don't necessarily know when they were talking about the parts that they're doing and what they were nominated for. And just outside our boardroom door here, you can see the tree that has the apples on it, and all the different awards recipients are on there. And it's just, I think we really do need to celebrate the friends that we have that are supporting the work that we're doing within our division. So thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Cheryl.
I agree. There are a lot of things going on that we get the pleasure of attending in May and June. I just wanted to make a comment about the Indigenous grad. I found that to be a very beautiful event. And the thing that really moved me was the importance of family that was shown when they did their entrance with their family members, and the great respect that they have for their culture in how they served their elders first. I thought that those were remarkable things to put forward, and it was very heartwarming to see that.
Thank you, Cheryl. Tiffany.
I had the opportunity to be involved with the ICE scholarships this year, and so I'm in the process of sending emails for the ones who have won the awards, and I just was blown away. We had to make lots of difficult decisions because we had 26 applications, and just the talent and just the things that they are working on and involved in, and the things that they shared with us, we were absolutely blown away. We brought back Andrea Andrewchuk, helped judge, as well as some of our community sponsors, and Craig helped out too in the afternoon, and just really kudos to all those kids who put themselves out there and just shared all their incredible talents and gifts that they have, and just all the wonderful things that they're doing. So
Thank you. And thank you for all your work on that, Tiffany. I've had, like everyone else, I've had the pleasure of attending Indigenous grad as well as LCI grad, and it's really fantastic to be able to celebrate students after 12 or 13 years of hard, dedicated work. And so congratulations to those students, and then to the ones who will be walking the stage in the weeks to come as well. I enjoyed our board and leadership lunch with both Chinook and Plaxton staff. It's always really appreciated. I appreciate the time to be able to connect with staff at the schools and just to get to know them a little bit more and hear parts of their stories and their experiences in the classrooms and in their buildings. And I will mention Arts Alive and Well in the Schools. I was privileged to attend and speak at the opening ceremonies of that. If you haven't checked it out, it's at the Southern Alberta Art Gallery, and it is free to go and see some really incredible artwork of students from Lethbridge School Division, Holy Spirit Catholic School Division, as well as Franco Sud. And then there is also a section where you can see all of the online submissions as well. So if you haven't had an opportunity to go, I encourage you to go, and congratulations to all of the students for being selected to be shown at the SAG. All right, we will now move on or back to number 10, our presentations. Our first presentation is a distinct program presentation with Fleetwood Bodden Montessori. So I will invite your team to the front, and I will ask Mike, I think it's you, to introduce. Is it you? They can introduce. Yeah. Yes, please introduce your team, and we will ask, because we are live streaming, we'll ask that you do speak in a mic, so you might just have to hold the mic, Kathy. Yeah. Turn it on first.
Check, check.
Check, check.
My name is Kathy Mundell, and I am here to represent Fleetwood Bodden. I brought two of my colleagues, Nicole Friel, our vice principal, and aspiring leader Ali Wensman, who is a big teacher leader in our Montessori program and one who has had extensive practice with the teaching of Montessori philosophy. And so I myself 23 years ago started at Fleetwood Bodden, and that's when Montessori first was established. And so I was in a grade 1 mainstream classroom teaching next to Montessori, and it was vastly different. My students sat in rows. I taught the class the same thing at the same time, and across next door there's bead chains and all these amazing materials that are being spread out, looking very foreign but natural. All mine was primary colors and craziness. And then it's just so interesting. If you were to walk down our school hallway, I think you would, the gap between Montessori and mainstream is becoming closer and closer because it really is about best practice. And I do believe the Montessori stream being housed at Fleetwood Bodden has really bolstered Fleetwood Bodden in being able to see what a collaborative program like Montessori can do to impact learning and teacher practice. So we did create a little presentation here for you. We are also very mindful of a heavy agenda and this time of year. So we've prepared, even though we've brought materials and I'm super keen, I'm going to take about 10 minutes of your time. Okay, so just brace yourself. It's not a full-blown presentation here. So we want to first say that Montessori, it does make a difference at Fleetwood, and I just think it really is about best practice. So one of the biggest foundations of Montessori is that creating independence and just self-direction and initiative for students. And so a lot of the practices that happen in the classroom, which Ali is a big part of, is really students owning their own learning and being part and having that confidence to be able to be their own learner. And so without that philosophy just kind of embedded in, I think kids just kind of wait to be taught. Whereas in the Montessori, they're really fueling to make sure that kids are guiding their own learning. Mm-hmm. Another pillar is very hands-on, that the learning is very visible in classrooms. And so particularly the literacy and numeracy resources, if you look at them, they almost seem a little bit strange. They're new, they're very Reggio looking. And so it's a different style of teaching. It's not your typical manipulatives. And so that is what is unique. We have coordinated with Lethbridge Montessori Society, and they do fundraising every year, and they actually supplement and pay for many of the resources that we see at Fleetwood Bodden because we are a feeder school, and they also provide the training for our Montessori teachers to utilize the materials in impactful ways. And so that's very unique to our school, very unique to our division. Yeah, we can keep going on. Problem solving. What I really love, it's not in this presentation, but one pillar is having a peace table in classrooms where it's often set by a window, there's often a natural plant or flowers on the table, and that is where students, if they're having conflict, they go to the peace table and they work out the problem on their own. Now, if you see in grade 1 classrooms, there's a bit more teacher, guidance, but by the end, they really are becoming very strong problem solvers. And I think in this day and age, to be able to not necessarily fight out who's right in a situation, but just trying to figure out how to make a problem, how to make a solution, and how to make things right, opposed to being right. And so that is a big piece, and that you're never alone and it's together is better for that. Mm-hmm. So far, Ali and Nicole, is there anything else that you want to add? I just want to make sure we go through and value the time. I know this group is busy. The other piece is we strengthen focus in a distracted world. So really trying to build deep concentration, self-regulation, and the ability to stick with challenging work. That is a big part of Montessori philosophy. And I think having multiple ways to access learning, whether it's through tactile, whether it's through presentations, I have to say, I got an invitation, which I often do from our Montessori teachers, but this one came from Ali. Today, it was an invitation to admin saying, you're invited to the speaker series in the grade 2 and 3 classrooms. And so they were showcasing their learning. Well, they had fish. The parents are coming in, involving parents coming in and just presenting information, and it's often showcasing their learning, and it's always really exciting to be invited into those classrooms where we can see kids just showcasing their learning. Next slide. This is another big one, the citizenship, growing in a prepared environment. And so I think the spaces themselves, we want them to be, how there's classrooms that are full of all the teacher materials. And so you're like, ooh, the kids can access this little corner of the room. I think at Fleetwood Bodden, spaces are important, particularly in a Montessori classroom where the materials are accessible. If you were to look at our grade 1 teacher, Mrs. Esther Awashuga, she has her materials and then you see them like with taped up. Because it's not a free-for-all, it's very organized, it's very intentional. They teach how to use the materials, and then a section is opened up. And it's a gradual release of the materials so that students know how to access the materials when they're needed. And so we took it upon ourselves about 3 years ago. Hey, Ali, all the Montessori teachers gathered all the materials that were just kind of in little cubbies and in classrooms, and we gathered them all, and we actually have a Montessori resource lending library built in the offshoot of our library so that we can access them easier, and it's cross-grade. They're not trapped in different classrooms, and so that's really nice. And so having that environment that is accessible for kids is very important, especially in the Montessori environment. And as you can see, it is super important. Like that has infiltrated our mainstream programming, right? It's best practice. I'll turn it to you, Ali.
Oh, we'll just get a mic to you, Ali. That's okay.
All of the teachers who are trained in Montessori with the Montessori certification all have training on the specific tools that you have in front of you. And so they are specifically organized, they're prepared, they're presented in specific ways so that the students learn and understand how to use them and take care of them properly and then put them back in the place that they came from. So these materials aren't accessible to regular stream classrooms. They are only accessible in Montessori classrooms.
And that really does make when I talk about best practice and having, best practice, it kind of infiltrates into the whole school. One thing that differentiates the classrooms is the materials are very different, and we make it so that there is a distinct difference between Montessori and mainstream. Yeah, I think that might be close to the end, but there might be one more. Oh, lifelong learners. At Fleetwood Baden, we've really embraced and tried to nurture being a culture of learning, the adults, the students, and that the learning is lifelong. And so we really do believe in our Montessori stream. They're engaged, confident, curious, and we're trying to create curious and critical thinkers. But yeah, I think that might be it. Does anybody have any questions before we close?
Well, thank you for a great presentation. I know whenever I go into your school, you have such an incredible energy in your school, and you have staff members that care deeply and community members that care deeply for the students in your building that are privileged to be able to attend your school. And I just want to say thank you for the intentional work and care that you do to ensure that all students are inspired to be curious, lifelong learners. And on behalf of the board, I do want to extend sincerest congratulations on your being selected as this year's winner of the Betty Grigg Inclusive Education Award. I think that speaks to the dedication and the work that you have done and your whole team has done to ensure students are seen and supported. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I will open it up to questions from it. Does anyone else have questions or comments? Christina.
Thank you for the presentation and for the work in Montessori. I was trying to remember. I did like either my Ed 2500 or my PS1 in Montessori, and it was great. But one of the things that I learned from your presentation was the relationship that you have with the Montessori Society. And my understanding is they offer like preschool or out of in kindergarten. And so from a governance perspective, I think that's an important note. We talk a lot about the new opportunity that we have in public education, that childcare and education are now in the same ministry in Alberta. And I think Lethbridge often leads with our commitment to collaboration across the community and departments. And so I think that was a great learning for me as a governor to understand that that's another example of where Lethbridge School Division has fostered like meaningful partnerships for strong delivery of both services. My guess is that Lethbridge Montessori Society also benefits a lot from the collaboration with you all. So thank you for that commitment to that partnership.
One thing that may be of interest to you is there are 2 Montessori campuses. There's one on Scenic Drive and there's one on Forestry. And they're both preschool and kindergarten programs. And each year there are approximately 50 kinders that graduate from that program. And approximately 25, and it's every year in the last 4 years, half come to Fleetwood Baden. Many go to French immersion, and then the rest go to their boundary schools. It is not very often that we lose them to another division. Now, I keep track if we're maybe losing them to another division. And so we really try to extend. And so our school, we have open houses. We allow for Montessori grade 1 to register the week early to register the week before registration grade 1 to grade 12 open. So that's very nice, and it really helps keep those Montessori students registered in our program and to sustain that. So that's important for this group of people to know. And they stay in our school. Yeah, they're maintained. Very rarely would they leave to Montessori. And we have had, in my 4 years, we've never had a request that Montessori isn't working, so can they switch over to mainstream? That has not happened.
Yeah, that's good information to know too. Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Allie, Nicole, and Kathy for your time today. Okay. Well, now we are moving on to 10.2, presentation of our provincial champions from LCI Esports. This seems to be a standing item on our agenda, which I think is really fantastic. So during the Alberta Esports Championship in May, LCI's Clayton Barfuss took first place out of 200 participants in Super Smash Brothers. So congratulations to Clayton. In Rocket League, where there were 15 teams, LCI Gold took top spots. Rocket League LCI Gold players featured Agrim Podell, Alex Vervecken, and Cade Fraser, with coaches Will Kellett and Cam Findley. The Valorant competition featured 8 teams, and once again, LCI Gold was at the head of the class in first. The gold medal team included Matthew Fedoruk, Rocco Dagnon, Gavin DeYoung, Gabe Gorner, and Nicholas Vardy, with coach Mike Harrison. So congratulations to all of you, and we're so thrilled that you were able to come to be recognized here at the board office or the boardroom. And so what we will do is we have certificates to present to you. So we will invite the coaches forward to read forward the names, and then Superintendent Mike Nightingale and myself, Christine Light, will present the certificates, and then we'll do a great group photo after. Okay. Okay.
I'll be Jesse Gamble.
You'll be Jesse Gamble.
This is Gamble.
Okay.
Alex, well, I guess.
Do I need the mic? Oh, if I can have you stand here. And then
This is Will.
Oh, okay.
It's Will.
I'll let you organize.
I don't want it. Yeah.
I don't know how it's
Organized. Awesome. Thanks, Will. Yeah, no problem.
Alex Vervecken.
Alex, great job. We're gonna have you just stand on the stairs here. We're gonna take a picture like this, so come on up.
Agreem Podell. Cade Fraser. This one's me. Do I say my own name?
Yeah, we can say it. Will Kellett, thank you, coach. Okay, that's everyone?
Here. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not here today.
We're gonna take a picture.
You can take each section and then.
Yep.
All right, first up, Matthew Fedoruk. Woo!
Congratulations.
Rocco Dagnon. Can't say your name either. No, say your name.
Good job.
Unfortunately, Gavin DeJong is sick, so he is not here. And then Gabe, unfortunately, Gabe Warner could not book it off work. That leads us to Nick Vardy.
Yeah, and then thank you, Coach Harrison, for your work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'll take it.
I'm Jesse Gamble today.
Okay.
Yeah, after 2 kids, it's I got tired. Clayton Barfus.
Great job. Yeah. Absolutely. I like it. Exactly.
Oh, right front center. With the number 1.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's always great to be able to celebrate our students. Hello, welcome. We're going to take a moment. Robbie Charlebois has rejoined us, and so we're just going to have a moment to move back to 7.3 Human Resources Report. The report is before you, and I just wanted to give opportunity for any questions that you may have for Robbie. Okay, seeing none, thank you for your report. Okay. I'm gonna say we can. Okay. All right, we're kind of bouncing around today in our agenda, but that's all right. We're going to go to 11.2, International Field Trip, Chinook High School.
Yeah, and you can share the microphone. So we just have before us Chinook High School, Brody Turnbull and Josh Murray to present an international trip that they are proposing. And I'll just turn it over to you, chaps.
Okay. We're proposing a trip to Switzerland and coastal France and Italy. Like we did with Iceland, we're hoping to gear it towards more of our scientific-minded students. We're seeing a lot of students taking a ton of sciences at Chinook, and we're really building on that, which, I mean, tomorrow we'll talk about that, Mike, too. But the idea would be April 13th to 23rd in 2028. So we're trying to get ahead of the game as well, because we know that cost often plays into a lot with families. Obviously, we have our own kids and, and know how expensive things can be. We would do 3 days in Switzerland, 4 days in coastal Italy, and 3 days in France, and then travel home on the 11th day. The idea would be going to the aquarium, looking at biodiversity in the oceanside cities, looking at why the water is blue in Lake Como versus what we have here with the limestone and the protections in Switzerland. And Italy, cost is $5,477 per student, which breaks down to approximately $200 a month from now if they signed up, which at minimum wage for a student is 16 hours a month. So trying to really keep the cost down. I went back and forth between 3 companies for 6 months and eventually got one of them to knock down the price by $600, angering the other 2. But it's about the kids at the end of the day more than anything. We also went with the 8-to-1 ratio, which often trips are 6-to-1, but we wanted to make sure that this again was the cheapest opportunity for kids, which I think falls under the price point of ones that are going on at our school right now and ones at other school. Yeah, fundraising wise, we're trying our best to set up different things with different students. Right now, I'm in the process of talking to some different companies and trying to get at least our busing to Calgary covered so that we can ensure all students are there. The idea also would be to talk to other schools and see if if their students are being granted the same opportunities. Like, I don't know if Winston Churchill has one for that year, but we are more than open to try to make it open to everybody in the division. We don't want to see any kids left out. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I too would like to understand on site why the water is blue in Lake Como. That would be really fantastic. I will open it up to questions from trustees. Christina.
Two pieces. I really appreciate that you thought about and then presented the breakdown for how much this would cost students in terms of like minimum wage time. I think that's super thoughtful and represents like that. To me, that represents the work that you did thinking about your students. So thank you. I'm actually very moved by that to like focus on students being able to access that if it's their choice. Because we just know that that's not always the option, that it relies on families, and that's not an option for all students. So thank you for that. And I've been really struggling with the price of international trips, and I really appreciate that you have the foresight to think about like a 2-year out option. Which I think makes it a lot more realistic. Trying to think about like a $500 savings a month in a year is just not reasonable from anybody, I would say. And so to me, those both pieces are those are new approaches in the presentation of international trips. So I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if it was on. I pressed the wrong button. My bad. We also, with this, like Brody said, we've been really aggressive with the travel providers, including looking at a third option that hasn't been used in the division before, and really like it was a lot of meetings, and really we are very focused on price. I mean, when I was a kid, I couldn't have afforded to do a trip even at that point. So it is important to us. The things that were kind of important to us that we considered were that that we have some that have a science focus, and then B, also that there's lots of parts of it that are more active than typical. Like, we really try to keep the kids off of being on a bus the whole time. We have hiking planned in there as part of the trip, and things that are more experiential than just going and seeing a site. So yeah, there's already a fair amount of interest. Brody's been, I mean, everybody buys into what Brody sells for the most part. And the kids like it, but it is there's a lot of thought, and it is a customized trip. So I mean, on that front, it does bring the price up a little bit, but we were very like determined to A, have it be somewhere that hasn't been done before, and B, have it be activities that are specifically geared to student enrichment and science, rather than just being a canned major tourist sites that are, while they're great, kids will probably do that on their own at some point, right? We avoided going to just like capitals and visiting stuff that we'd stare at. So hopefully that's a win for students as well.
Thank you. Allison.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the comments of my colleague. I think it's very, very important that you guys took that extra step to really connect it to how a student could earn their way to be able to go to this, and to break it down to how many hours. I think just makes it doable. Often as trustees, it's, especially in public school division, it really is about how do we ensure that these opportunities are afforded to all of our students. And this is just a way that you're doing that. And then in addition to that, and I don't know what will come of that, but I think just your offering of opening it up to other schools schools, because I often hear from students and families, and they're at a different high school, and they're like, man, I wish that was the trip my school was doing, or it's not within my 4 years of being at that high school. And maybe that is a new concept for our division to look at of some of that joint piece. So I like your innovative way of thinking of how that could possibly reach other students in our division as you might open that up. So thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany.
I would just say the same things that these guys say. I just am so excited that your students get this opportunity and you are making it available with, you know, thinking ahead, being intentional with your planning, and even having the motivation to try to bring the price down and going to different companies. I think that's great and shows your commitment to your students and wanting them to have that opportunity. And it just sounds like all the things that you have planned are so great. So thank you for your work on that. And I'm excited for your students to have this experience.
I am looking for a motion, please. Brooke.
I recommend that the board, the Chinook High School trip to Switzerland, Italy, and France in April of 2028 be approved by the board on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed, and with the understanding that future travel advisories and/or vaccination requirements may affect the trip's ability to proceed.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Okay, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic trip. Cheryl.
I just wanted to acknowledge Brody, because Brody was one of 4 from 230 nominations of the teachers that were recognized by the ATA during Education Week. So the gift that keeps on giving.
Thank you for joining us today. Okay, I do not see LCI representatives here. So we are going to move to our 415 item, which is 11.11, access to information and privacy protection policy update. Sorry, I ended that early. And so I will hand this over to, is this you or Kyle?
Yeah, but really, Jesse and Avis are, have the expertise in this area. So I won't spend too much time on it. And they're here to, if you do have questions, they're here to answer questions, or if there's information you want, even beyond this, they can certainly provide that. So as you likely know, FOIP, the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, has been replaced by 2 new acts, the Access to Information Act and the Protection of Privacy Act. And the whole idea is to better distinguish between access to information and privacy rights, because it's always a matter of balancing those 2 things in an organization like a school division. So we do have some policies that are required to be updated. Before that, Jesse or Avis, is there anything that you want to share or any information that you want to give in advance here? No requirement for that. Just want to make sure if there is anything that
just so that everybody knows, it's been about 1.5 years in the making that we've done a lot of groundwork on this. I know we've kind of put the policies off to the side, but for our privacy management program that we've developed, it's quite relatively available to the public. Please, I encourage you to go to our website under it's under Business Affairs, under our PMP, which is our Privacy Management Program. You will see a lot of developed resources there, ways to what we're doing, our notification standards. So a lot of the things you're seeing in the new bill have been already accounted for. We're just kind of getting pointing ahead today and just updating a few of our policies that reference VoIP. These aren't inclusively all of them, but these are the ones that we feel that we need to start with.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So we have 4 motions before us, 4 recommendations. So what we will do is I will ask for the first motion, number 1, and we will deal with them individually. And then once one is done, we will move on to 2, etc. So I am looking for the first motion to begin discussion. Tiffany.
I move that the board adopt the revisions to policy 805.6 access to information and protection of privacy as presented.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion or questions? Mike.
Just one thing to call to the board's attention, there is information about fees there on the old one on point number 3. It was our intention just to move that into procedure because there will be some procedures and updating of some supporting documents that need to go along with this policy once it's approved. So just so the board's aware, that was the intention. Theoretically, it could be in policy. I think it's a bit of a, it's really just a decision on, because it's all defined by the legislation anyways, but we just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I just saw your mic was on. That's all. Any other comments or questions? Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Can I have the second motion, please? Tiffany.
I move that the board adopt the revisions to policy 805.7 preservation and disposal of records as presented.
Thank you very much. The amendments are before you. Any discussion? Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Tiffany, would you bring us number 3, please?
I move that the board adopt the revisions to policy 805.2 employee personnel records as presented.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Christina.
Just a logistical question. The 2.1, the records in paper format, do we still have a lot of paper records? Yes.
Yes.
Some big eye nods. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yes.
so right now, student records are all digital. Employee records are mostly paper, or all paper. And counseling notes and certain things are still kept in paper. So yeah, we do have a significant amount, probably 50-50, a little bit more, not quite 50-50, but yes, we do.
Okay. Any other questions? Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Tiffany, can we have the 4th motion, please?
I move that the board adopt the revisions to Exhibit 204.4A ATI guidance for in-camera closed to public meetings as presented.
Thank you. Avis.
And I just wanted to add just one, I guess, clarifying piece on this. The one that's new is now a new section under the access to information. So you'll see that the sections within the act have been updated, and then the workplace investigations is a new one. So that's why that's been added.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any comments or questions? Christina.
I think just as a note for the board and for myself as a governor, like while a lot of the policy updates are really sort of just an updating of the title of the document, I think it's actually a really important topic to make sure that the board has a very solid understanding of when it comes to privacy legislation. I think Canadian privacy legislation is a very dynamic field and continues to change, and it may be worth having a board conversation about this in the next board year, just to have a really full understanding of how this applies to boards, the liability related to privacy, as well as our commitment as public body governors, beyond just the sort of updating of policy related to it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Christina. Craig.
Yes, on this bill, I like it, and I think we really need to start working as a board to limit, except for what's allowed on the discussion of items. We tend to get really elongated in-camera agendas, and I think we need to really work hard at making sure that only those that are listed are part of the in-camera.
Thank you, Craig. And I'll just note, just in response to that comment, I know you mentioned what is listed. In the first paragraph, the Board of Trustees is authorized under the Education Act, Section 64(1)(3), when a majority of the trustees present at a meeting of the board are of the opinion that it is in the public interest to hold the meeting or part of the meeting in private for the purpose of considering any matter, the board may, by resolution, exclude any person from the meeting. There isn't necessarily a set list, but certainly I'm in agreement, Craig, that we need to be mindful and intentional of what we do include on the in-camera and that it doesn't become an overflow of what should be in the public agenda. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, the motion is before us. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Avis and Jesse, for all of your work on this and for joining us today. All right, we will move back to 11.6, Lethbridge School Reserve Agreements. Kyle.
Okay, so in front of the trustees today, you have the municipal, you have the Lethbridge School Reserve Agreement. So this is an agreement that is between the three school boards, the Lethbridge School Division, Holy Spirit School Division, and Franco Sud, and the city of Lethbridge as the municipality. So the Municipal Government Act was amended in previous years to require that school divisions and municipalities enter into a planning agreement. This is otherwise known as a JUPA. So it's a formal partnership to enable integrated long-term planning for the use of school sites, municipal reserves, school reserves, and municipal and school reserves. The province has set a deadline for this agreement of June 10th of this year. So the relevant legislation is listed in the staff report under the Municipal Government Act and the Education Act. So I think it's important to note that the intention of a JUPA is to form a process for discussing these items between the municipality and the school board. Largely the items of interest you can see on the screen there. So we do have a draft agreement presented to the trustees between the four parties, and we are presenting that for approval today on the Lethbridge School Division side.
Okay, thank you very much. I am looking for a motion to begin discussion. Christina.
I move that the Board of Trustees for Lethbridge School Division approve the Lethbridge School Reserves Agreement.
Thank you very much. I will open it up to comments or questions. Christina.
Just to clarify, that I think many people are familiar with the joint use agreement. Can you clarify in ways that this is different than that?
Yeah, we have the joint use agreement that largely centers around the use of facilities. So how the municipality and school divisions share in use of service facilities. So for an example, our schools and our students during school time can go use a variety of city facilities free of charge. And in return, the city does use our facilities for community rental bookings outside of normal school hours. So that is outside and separate from this. This agreement is more centered around the planning and development of long-term school sites, disposal of property, transfer of property, etc.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? Craig, oh, thank you, Craig. And that is carried. Thank you. And we will move on to 11.7, policy 1001.3, second reading. Cheryl.
Thank you. This policy is coming to the board the second time. So it came last month for first reading and received support. So I'm here today as part of the process to have second reading. So there haven't been any changes from last month, and I didn't receive any feedback outside of the meeting to indicate otherwise. So I would like very much to put a motion forward that the board approve policy 1001.3, communication and channels of communication for second reading.
Okay, I will see that as a declared motion. Thank you, Cheryl. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, those in favor? And that is carried. That is carried unanimously. So because it was carried unanimously on second reading, we are now able to move forward to a third reading in this board meeting. And so Cheryl, I will ask you to please present the motion.
Thank you. I would move that the board approve policy 1001.3, communication and channels of communication for third reading.
Thank you. I will open it up for questions or discussion. Seeing none, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to 11.8, policy 1002.4, first reading. Cheryl.
Thank you. This is coming to the board for first reading. So this policy is part of the process that we're undertaking to amalgamate some of our policies and to better align them with the actions that we take as a board. So there is a bit of background information there. The process was that we amalgamated, sorry, I'm just going to look at my notes. Our current policy 1002.4, school councils, and 1002.5, which is parent guardian responsibilities. So we have come up with a 1002.4, parent guardian responsibilities in school council. So this process started by using the school council's policy and synthesizing it with the parent and guardian responsibilities policy. And the reason that we chose that path was because the original 1002.5 parent guardian responsibilities policy is very brief and is really just a direct cut from the Education Act. So it was easy to synthesize the necessary content into this policy. In discussion with our stakeholders, it was determined that parent and guardian responsibilities is the more important of the two, and therefore we changed the order so that it is reflected first in the title. And we have gone through and synthesized the content and changed some wording and added and taken away where it was appropriate. After the Policy Advisory Committee reworked this over the course of a couple of meetings, this went out for public feedback. The feedback came back to the Policy Advisory Committee, who then made some further amendments. It went then to the policy consultant for final look, and now it is coming to you for hopefully approval.
Thank you very much. Would you like to put forward a motion?
Yes. I would like to move that policy 1002.4 parent guardian responsibilities and school councils be approved for first reading.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I will open it up for discussion. Christina.
I was curious about the, thank you for the work on this and for all the feedback on it. I think this is a great example of a policy that is well served by the Policy Advisory Committee and the stakeholder group there. So thank you. I was curious about in the regulation section, I appreciate that the parent guardian went first in the title, but I found it fairly underrepresented in the actual policy content, which I was surprised because I feel like that's often like the strongest part of our feedback from Policy Advisory Committee. Given that school council is one way that parents can be engaged, and one of the ways that they can fulfill their both privileges and responsibilities as parents in the school. And so, yeah, I'm just curious about the conversation on whether the parent representatives in particular felt like the parent guardian side of this policy was well represented for their perspective.
Yes, so the opening statement of the new policy is the same opening statement of the original parent guardian policy, so it starts right away with that. And then as we went through the regulations, it was determined that as it's not required that these are verbatim from the Education Act, they do have to be cited as where they're from, but regulations from the previous or the original policy that weren't things that could be enforced or acted upon or dictated to parents. For example, one of the things would be to ensure that the child attends school regularly. The division and the school has no authority to ask a parent to do that. So when they looked at the regulations that were listed, they wanted to focus on the ones that actually had meaningful opportunity to be utilized. So that's why some of them were not wordsmith, but appear or don't appear.
Mike and then Allison.
I have a couple of questions. One, I see in here that this policy would jointly together would replace policy 102.5.
Yes, that's the parent guardian responsibilities policy. Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm curious why it would under the references on the new policy, why it would reference policy 1002.5.
Yeah, because there will be a required renumbering. It was determined that that's where it originally came from. We've got that in there sort of to remind us that we need to circle back to that. But these little nuances with the numberings are all going to have to be updated once we have a final draft, because this section originally I had, I think 11 or 14, I can't remember exactly, individual policies, and we are reducing that to 3. So there will be some renumbering required, and they may not even be 1000s when all of this is over with.
So I'm just curious why it would highlight specifically 1002.5.
Because that comes from, that is the existing policy that we're working from. And if you look here, like where it says to make sure that it's current, so that's a reminder to us that we're referencing it because it's the one that is active and in place right now, but it may not be once this is approved. So it's kind of like a cart before the horse, or like the order of things, but that's a very small thing that we hope we can edit after the fact.
I just think that if this is what would, once it's approved through third reading, that this is how it would look, which 1,000 to 2.5 would be removed. So this wouldn't come into play until 1,000 2.5 is removed. So to me, it wouldn't be in this document. It kind of gives an impression that 1,000 2.5 is still going to be in existence when it's in this document if this is what's being approved.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying there. And if you think it would be better to strike 1,002.5 completely, we can do that as well.
I think if that's the intention for it to be removed, then I think that it should be struck from the references. I have a couple other questions. On regulations, number 2, school councils shall make all attempts. I think
just a second, I'm going backwards here. Yeah.
I think when we're saying that they shall make all attempts is overzealous, I think, of that they're for them to make all attempts when it's a shall that's there. They might not be able to make all attempts as school councils. Some have 5 members, some have 20 members, and when you have more active people, I think that you can do a lot. But I just think the word all attached with shall is potentially too much that we're putting on school councils with the word all. So I'd like to see the removal of the word all. I think that they need to make attempts to represent the school community, but to make all attempts, I think, is putting too much on school councils.
So we did have significant parent representation on the policy advisory committee, and they felt, and Tiffany, you can probably help me out with this, but they felt very strongly that it was very important that the school councils were made available to all parents, but that because not all parents want to participate or can participate in school councils, they didn't want the assumption or belief to then allow for them not to try. So I think that's why they wanted to use strong language. But do you think, like, if we made that, what language are you proposing, Allison, instead? So just take out the word all? Okay.
I'm going to chime in on this. I think I hear where you're coming from. When I read all, I don't see it as the end result will be a guarantee of, right? I think it is a reflection of the effort we're wanting them to put forward. So as much effort as possible, regardless of the size of council. I think it speaks to the intent. Oh, Craig, you're not muted.
Yes, I know. I was just going to talk after you.
Oh, okay. Allison's hand is up, and then I see your hand. Thank you.
I just think on that one, with it tied to the word shall is basically saying that you have to, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not.
So let me play devil's advocate here for a second. So if I said to you, school councils shall make attempts to represent, do you think that sounds like I don't have to try very hard? Because they really wanted to make sure that we tried very hard.
I think that still says that they must, with the word shall still being there, that they must make those attempts. But to say all, what are all? How are you defining all? If you go to a school council, how are you ensuring that all are done? And the fact that the word shall is there means that it better be all, but we don't have a definition of what all means. So to tie the two together, we're not telling them what all means, but we're requiring of them that they do all.
Craig.
Yeah, I have no problem with shall and all, because school council could say, well, we tried one, we shall try, big deal. But when you say all attempts, well, then it's up to the school council as a whole to figure out what other attempts they could do to improve school council and to get more people involved. So I have no problem with the wording. And if the parent response back to the public policy advisory committee was to add that I would respect their wishes and include it.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Are there any further comments or questions? Well, Morag.
This is perhaps just an extension from the crisis response manual review that I've done with a handful of administrators. Given that this is a synthesized policy now around parent guardian responsibilities and school council, there was an articulation from our administrators to explore a more robust policy that would share specifically behavior and communication to school staff, respectful behavior and communication. I've had quite a few no trespasses this year from certain members within our school communities, and it's articulated from our administrators that that is a concern, that it's important to be able to have some boundaries that are very firmly in place and articulated.
Thank you, Morag, for that input. Christina, and then Brooke, and then Allison.
That's I think the heart of what I was trying to get at with the parent guardian piece. And I think maybe that's one of the blind spots maybe of a policy advisory committee, where everybody there is very engaged and they're often very involved with their school. They often have very strong relationships with their school already, and so maybe are not aware of some of the more challenging experiences between schools and guardians. And well, of course, we want to set everybody up for success, and I'm always a pro of use positive language and encourage the positive behavior. Reality is there's also some challenging behaviors, not just from students or from staff, for example, but those behaviors are very governed. We have a very significant student code of conduct. We have a ton of regulations in place for staff behavior. And I think that there likely needs to be some sort of document that we can point to for parent responsibilities. I can appreciate the idea that it's not necessarily all enforceable within this type of policy. And so maybe the policy advisory committee would consider recommending a procedure, for example, something like that. I value the policy language, but when I look at the Education Act, Section 32, and the legal requirements of parents in our schools, I agree that the old policy also didn't have that, but I would take this as an opportunity to set clear expectations for parents, both to allow them to get positive relationships and service from their schools and to protect our staff in situations where it has gone awry. Yeah.
Brooke.
I just had a question around some of the wording in the policy around welcoming and caring. Are we not being instructed to remove that kind of language?
Yeah, we did talk about that, and I'm going to talk about that next. But first, I want to circle back to what Allison had raised so we can settle that. Instead of saying shall make all attempts, would it be better to say shall make best efforts to represent the school community? Does that sound like you're making more of an effort than just minimal and a little bit stronger than just attempts? Because attempt could be pretty. So if we changed it to that, would that be acceptable? Okay, let's do that then. So under number 2, thank you for that suggestion, Kyle. School council shall make best efforts to represent the school community. Okay, and now we'll move on to Brooke's comment. So yes, Brooke, we did talk about that. And we decided that since we are working diligently to get our policy up to date, and since that has not been, that piece of legislation I don't think was passed. But did that come down yet, Mike? I don't think so. The removal of the word welcoming, has that been passed? Not yet. So because we haven't been, directed, mandated to do that, then we chose to include it. And then we also had a very fulsome conversation, I love that word of Christine's, about whether or not we would continue to include that word, even though it's not necessarily that, because it is, division policy, and maybe there's some way for us to continue that, because it is important to us that we are welcoming.
Thank you. Allison, did you still have a hand up? Yeah, go ahead, please.
And I have a few more pieces, but I think just circling to the parent responsibility piece, I'm in agreement. Like, I think that the parent piece, and I get that there was parents there that were involved and they were part of this. One of the biggest pieces that I have heard since the board package went out, and this was out in it, is in regards to when we look at 1002.5, and this is where some of that confusion came in of whether 1002.5 is staying in or not, is the 1.1, that there's strong feeling, especially from inclusive education community, that, as my computer turns off, is that the parent responsibility or guardian responsibility to act as the primary guide and decision maker with respect to the child's education is hugely important to them, and they're not seeing that within this.
That is the opening statement of this policy. It says, the board believes that parents and guardians are the primary educators and are partners in the schooling of their children.
Which is very different from the piece of that they're the primary guide and decision maker with respect to the child's education. So the parents are wanting to continue to have, and I get that that's still within the Education Act, but they want to see it within our policy that they're still the primary guide and decision maker with respect to their child's education. And they're not seeing that within this 1002.4.
Okay, so that didn't come up in any of the public feedback, and it didn't come up at the policy advisory committee table. So this is new information to me.
And that's fine. And that's why we're all elected as 7 different people, because we engage with different community. And that's why it comes to this board table for us to be bringing our views as elected officials to this. And that is something that is, I hear strongly from our parent community, that they want to ensure that they continue to have that responsibility to act as the primary guide and decision maker in their child's education. And they're not seeing that within this policy.
Okay, so you don't feel that that's satisfied when we say that they are the primary educator?
Sorry, say that again?
That isn't satisfied when we say specifically that parents and guardians are the primary educator?
They don't feel that they're the guide or the decision maker in their child's education. Primary educator is different than the decision maker in their child's education. So determining whether they're going to be, what the programming looks like for their child, for their education is different, right? So I have been with people I've spoken with, they feel that this does not reflect within that.
Okay, so how would you suggest we amend that?
That I believe that it should be from the act, that 1.1 should continue to be in this policy.
Okay, so I'm looking for some other thoughts on that then.
Christina. And Craig, I do see your hand. We'll finish this conversation and then I'll come to you.
I would agree. For example, I would suggest the board believes that the parents, guardians are the primary educators and act as the primary guide and decision maker. Period. Parents are partners in the schooling of their children. Like, just I would agree. Like, just add that specific language from 32A in the Education Act to that first sentence. Because I agree.
We're going to say the board believes that parents and guardians act as the primary guide and decision maker. And we strike primary educators.
I still like primary educator, but I would just add it to primary educators, act as the primary guide and decision maker.
Okay, so I just want to write it down.
So can I suggest the board believes that parents and guardians are the primary guide and decision maker with respect to their child's education and are the primary and are partners. Sorry. I was bringing clarity and I did not bring clarity.
I think I
My
found
apologies.
it. So the board believes that parents and guardians are the primary educators who act as the primary guide and decision maker with respect to their child's education, period. Yes.
I do think it is important to acknowledge resources are finite and the professionalism of a teacher should be consulted, because I have had opportunities with tables where there is an opinion that a program should look like X, and we are unable to deliver X due to the finite resources that we have. So I just want to be mindful of, we always value and want to have parents consulting, of course. There's no doubt, and they are the most knowledgeable about their child and their needs. There is another piece that we have to be very thoughtful about as an educational system, that we always will endeavor to provide absolutely everything that we can to program for a child. However, there may be times when we are unable to provide certain programming requests that might not be perhaps recommended from a medical professional that we would follow the guide to. So I really want to be thoughtful about the wording a little bit more. And maybe this needs a little bit more time. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Allison's point is that this comes directly from the Education Act.
Yeah.
And so yeah. Craig, sorry.
Craig, is this on the same or is this something new?
No, it's basically on the same.
Okay, go ahead.
I think we need to just maybe take this and refine it a little bit. I appreciate Morag's comments, because sometimes we just don't have the facilities, we don't have the resources to give what parents demand. And if we're, so I think we just need to fine tune the wording on that. The other point, and that's another one Morag brought up, is I think we need to have a procedure that goes with this policy on expected parental behavior in a school. That isn't our governance, it's an organizational thing. So I think we have to look at how do we get a procedure that protects our employees from abusive parents. And secondly, I just don't feel comfortable right now where we're going with this sentence and fine tuning it. So I would like to see it just put on hold until June, and then we could pass it.
Okay, thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. In response to Morag, I appreciate the challenges that staff have with parents. Nowhere in this policy do I see that parents have ultimate veto power to make decisions beyond the ability of the division. So I think that's really important. I hear the spirit of what you're advocating for. When I read this policy, I don't see division ability, resource, etc., being overridden by a parent's demand. So yes, so I am comfortable to continue discussion and moving forward with first reading. To remind the board, first reading is a vote of affirmation for the intent of a policy. Following first reading, there can still be a significant number of work. I know we've had feedback regarding, policies noted, different wording, the possibility of having an appendix of procedure, like those things can be done and presented for second reading as well. But I think we are able to still move forward with the first reading with the suggestions presented by Allison to ensure that the sentiment of 1.1 being included. I can appreciate that it wasn't heard at PAC, it wasn't heard through online. However, it does need to be taken into consideration from parents who have been in the position where those words are important. And I think we have other policies where if your lived experience is seeing important and weight to the words included within policy, we do need to heed that and listen to that. And so I would be supportive of including 1.1 in the first paragraph of policy, just to ensure that parents act as the primary guide and decision maker, and are the primary educators of their children. Parents are partners in the schooling of their children from early education to completion of high school. And partnership doesn't mean, we can demand carte blanche as a parent what we want. Allison, and then we'll go to Mike.
Should this carry forward after first reading? A couple of pieces that also stood out for me, but I don't need to see the changes here today, but for consideration, is on the new policy, new draft number 3. I'll skip to the end part and then I'll come back to the middle part. So the end part where it says division policy and regulations, I understand that you may be referring to the policy and the Okay, so on the new draft policy, on number 3, so the end of it says the word regulations, policy and regulations. And I don't know if it's in reference to the regulation within this document or if it's in relation to the procedures that would be yet to be developed, but usually there's procedures that would go along with this. And then just in consideration to also include any other acts or regulations so that school council's actions shall be consistent with division policy procedures and all other acts and regulations. And then the other piece, going back to the middle part, is just in the word of consistent. And I don't know if there was discussion around that, of whether it would be to comply rather than consistent. And I don't know if there was any consideration to that.
Yeah, I think that sentence comes generically from a lot of our policies, that we say that blah, blah, blah must be consistent with division policy and regulations. And the regulations refer to the rules. So those are the ones that are handed down to us. And that's kind of a generic application throughout our policy. So we could, I'm only working on this policy. I'm not doing them all, but that's what that means. So
you can certainly update it just or not, just for context where it came from. It's in the current, it's a cut and paste from the current policy. It's clause 4 in the current. I was just looking it up because I'm like, I think that's where it came from, but just so you know. Yeah.
And then Mike, you had your hand up? Or are you still going?
Yeah, just the last one.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Between, if it does go forward after first reading, is consideration on number 6. So currently, so it speaks in here of procedure 1002.4, and currently in that procedure, there is no reference to disputes. The disputes, what plans to be in there. So my question would be, is there any indication of what that dispute piece would look like when we do have dispute policy on disputes within our division? So just looking to see whether there'd be some consideration instead of having 1002.4, that it would reference our dispute policy. And I didn't get a chance
we
to pull
do have that.
up.
We just passed that one. That's the communications policy. It talks about dispute resolution.
Right. So number 6 is referring to that. My curiosity is there a plan to create some new procedure that's going to be in this 1002.4? So I would want to have some indication of what that new procedure would be under 1002.4, or should it reference the channels of communication piece, right? So that's kind of my curiosity on that number 6.
Yeah, so it is indicative that a procedure should be in place for this, and that the procedures are something that we defer to the superintendent to, not necessarily to write, but to be responsible for. So we wouldn't we wouldn't approve the procedure or consider the procedure when we're looking at the policy. Our role is to approve the policy, not the procedure.
Allison.
And I understand that, and that's why the last statement is there that the board delegates the superintendent to develop the procedures. But it is referenced in number 6 very specifically that there would be procedures. So my curiosity again is really, why is it in number 6 when it's in reference to the dispute piece, versus if it is just that, we do always, I fully know that part, that we always do give it to the superintendent. So why would it be different in number 6? That's my curiosity.
Yeah, because this section of the policies is largely the section that school councils would, if they're going to read a policy, they're going to read this one because it speaks directly to them. And so there was conversation at the table about how school councils didn't know where to go to get things. And when we talked several months ago about creating a different face for what the policies look like and sort of editing them so that when you see the policy, the procedures are buried in, or not buried, but they're laid out more clearly for folks. So perhaps that was why that was there. I'm thinking that's why that was there. Do you remember, Tiffany? Yeah. Like they wanted to have some something to say, like there's more than just this.
I just don't understand why it'd be just under disputes versus it being under like other portions of it. When there's disputes, we want them to go to the channels of communication, not a new procedure piece, right? Are you understanding what I'm saying, Mike?
I think so, and I believe where that comes from, although I'd have to check it, I believe the school council regulation indicates that you have to have a process for disputes between the school council and the principal. So my guess is that is a direct pull from the regulation, that reference that just came over. I'd have to check that to be 100% sure. So yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. And I'll maybe editorialize here a little bit. I think this conversation is a good example of, because I know that the original policy had reference to district policies, that sort of thing. If you look at many of our policies and many of the policies that we've done recently, we have tried to avoid that, and we don't have that section in there anymore. And for 2 reasons. One is we are trying to revamp hundreds of documents, and it's going to be hard to keep track of them all. And so you end up referring to policies or procedures that no longer exist or no longer relevant. And then moving forward, even once you've done that, it's incredibly hard to keep track of that. There are probably some times where you should refer directly, but ideally if you have your policy and procedure structure set up well, those things are sort of nested together. So I think you've really highlighted one of the challenges we have moving forward as we try and make all of this work together. And so we may want to consider not having that section of referring to division policies, because we definitely don't have it in all of our policies. It's also something we could ask our consultant about. I think it's sort of a mapping framework outline architecture thing. I might be wrong. He might say, no, that you have to have that. I think that opens us up to exactly this conversation where we're referring to things that, but it's going to change. And then this might go into procedure. And then that just creates as many challenges as it solves.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Okay, so do we want that struck then, refer to this?
I'm fine if you take it back. If it passes first reading, I'm fine if you take it back after first reading. And if you're meeting with policy advisory to kind of have that conversation.
Policy advisory is done with this now. So where is our decision now? We've gone through those steps.
Okay, so then whatever revisions you're going to make after.
Well, I know that the point of revisions is to satisfy people's concerns. So if you have a concern about that being there and there's no objection to removing it, then I would suggest that we remove it so that when it comes back for second reading, it is amended. And as I'm looking, I can see that this was taken directly from the original policy. So maybe that's why it ended up in there as well, because it was just a cut and paste from the current active policy.
Okay, the motion is before us. And so guidance on this will be we vote on this motion. There is still work that is able to be done on this prior to second reading. We also have a committee of the whole that will be able to have some conversation if needed to ensure that it is ready for a second reading. And so that will be my recommendation, is that we move forward with the vote on this motion. Mike, did you have something to say prior to?
Yeah, and normally I don't want to jump in here, but I'll just add a little bit of context. And Christina, to your comments, and Morag, to your comments. Definitely, we did have conversation about the parent guardian responsibility. Part of that was maybe not super prominent, and there's two things we tried to do. And also making the connection between responsibilities and school councils, because school councils is one way that parents can get involved, but it's not the only way. So the second paragraph, in accordance with the Education Act, because the policy that's in place regarding parental responsibilities is essentially a cut and paste from the Education Act mostly. So we added to some of that, and then what we did is we condensed what was in there, what we thought were some of the most relevant, salient points that you would want to start off with as governors, and not necessarily get down into some of the details. And some of those details are probably more context specific, potentially more procedural, that sort of thing. And we felt like under the Education Act, a lot of what we needed to cover was covered. So that was sort of the thought, but it's a legitimate question about how much detail do you want to get in at the policy level to responsibilities for parents. And that's why, essentially the feeling was that, the expectation of maintaining a welcoming, caring, respectful, safe learning environment, parents and guardians are expected to encourage, foster, and advance collaborative, positive and respectful relationships with teachers, principals, and other school staff, professionals providing supports in the school. Probably gave a good starting point and could be a launching point for admin procedure, that sort of thing. But in theory, it could also be, there could be more detail in the policy. But I just want to assure everyone, and Cheryl and Tiffany, if I'm misspeaking, but the way I remember it is we did have a long conversation on that, and went back and forth on it, and that's kind of where we landed, and that's why we landed there.
Okay, final comment, Brooke, and then I'll call the vote.
I just have a question. When you reference the Education Act in the policy, it's referencing the Education Act in the policy. So doesn't that just take care of all that?
That was the purpose of referencing the Education Act in that section, yeah. Rather than repeating it, we felt like we just reference it, hit some of the salient points, and away we go.
Thank you very much. The motion has been presented for first reading. Those in favor? Oh, sorry. Yes, as amended.
Just because the original motion would have just been to pass it,
Yes.
right? So, okay.
It will be as amended. Thank you. Yeah. So we'll do that. Yes. Do you need to rescind? Yes. Yeah, we can. Would you like to do it right now so we have it? Yeah, then it's on record. Yep, absolutely.
I've been making notes, so just kind of which ones we're gonna do. I've got I don't know where we landed on this one, the reference to 1002.5. If we wanted that amendment to stay in or okay, remove. And then I've got on replace all with best efforts. And then the first paragraph, I'm not sure where we landed on that. I had written down as a potential one was act as the primary guide, decision maker, educator, and our partners in the school. Yep. And then strike the policy reference in 6.
In school was a new sentence.
Okay.
Turn your mic on, Cheryl, please.
Sorry about that. I think that after parents, guardians act as the primary and then it's a hard stop, and then parents/guardians are partners is a new sentence.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then were we excluding the procedure reference in point 6? Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have, unless I missed one.
That's right.
Thanks.
Can I just
Allison.
confirm on 2 that you made that change on 2? Is that the first thing you said?
Best efforts.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I think we'll just keep the motion as amended, and then in the minutes, we can just make note as discussion. Yeah.
Yep. The motion is presented as amended. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Allison.
Can I just suggest that when we get to second and third reading, that part of the memo or motion would be to remove 1002.5 once we get to the end, and obviously not today, but at the next one, that the memo, because it would come in June, right, for second and potentially third, that would also include the removal of 1002.5, because once this is approved in June, it would go into our policies, right?
I thought we did remove that.
Pardon me?
I thought we did.
It was listed
Yeah,
as an amendment.
as in the references, yeah, we were going to remove that one.
So I get that we're removing it from this. We need to remove it from our actual policy manual.
Okay, I think we have to seek some clarification from the superintendent here. So my understanding is we are, if we approve a policy and there are procedures that go with that policy, it is not good practice to have the policy up without the subsequent procedures. And therefore, although we have approved the policy, it may not go to the public site until the procedures piece is done, and that could take a bit of time. So it won't happen immediately. So when it does happen, then yes, the removal of 1002.5, but probably this whole 1000 section will go up at once. So those things will organically shift.
Just as us being the decision maker of policy, I think that the superintendent needs to have a motion on the book somewhere that says that we're removing that policy from the policy manual. And it can be same as when he does put this in, that at the same time, he has to also remove the 1002.5. So there has to be a motion from the board to remove it, not just an insinuation, because there's no other insinuation of the 1002.5 unless we make a motion.
Yes, but we haven't done that so far. And so by doing it now, are we, because we've amalgamated several policies that have been approved, and at no point have we made a motion to remove. Like, I think this is I
think if there was ones that were specifically to be removed, then we should probably go back and ensure that those are removed. This one is very specific that we're removing 1002.5, right? And there's no reference in the motion that says that we're removing that.
So, Mike, go ahead.
Yes, that's going to be one of the challenges with the 1000 section. If you remember when we did the 300 section, for example, we tried to have procedures ready and then do the approval. We can certainly do the policies first and then we have to revamp that whole 1000 section. And so we can definitely give some thought to, because I think that is important, to putting that as part of the motion of how we just need to make sure we have that process right now that we're down this path. So I think we can do that pretty easily. And Cheryl, I'm comfortable with that. And you're right, we haven't done that for a lot of the policies because it hasn't been necessary, but we're in a little bit of uncharted water here. So not uncharted water, that's the wrong way to say it. Just organizationally, I just need to make sure I know exactly what we need to do, and then we can put it into a motion, I think, fairly easily. But I think you'd probably need some guidance from me first to get that before you can put it into a motion that actually makes any sort of sense. So yeah, I'm happy to do that and get that work for the next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your work on this policy. It is 5:15. Can we just confirm that if anyone is here for public forum? Seeing none, we will now move back to 11.1, International Field Trip LCI. We have Darren Majorin in the room with us, so we welcome you, Darren, to present your annual international trip to us.
Okay, can everyone hear me? So I've done this a few times. First of all, I want to say thank you for waiting for me. I've done this a few times, so I should have it right by now. But anyways, thank you for your patience. So the LCI Ram football team will be going to Pocatello, Idaho, or would like to go to Pocatello, Idaho, September 4th, 5th, and 6th. Now, our game is on the September 5th, and it's part of what's called the Rocky Mountain Rumble. So a bunch of schools from the Western United States and Canada, Raymond will be going as well, are meeting up in Pocatello, and there's like 8 different games that weekend, and we were invited to participate. So these games, yes, it's an annual thing for LCI, and we find a lot of value in taking our kids to on long road trips, whether it be to Edmonton or whether it be to BC, or in this case, Idaho, just for team bonding and to see some different things that maybe not all of them have seen. And certainly the U.S. provides an opportunity to play a few different roles in football that the kids see on TV that just helps them increase their knowledge of football and hopefully also get attention from any scouts that might be there that wouldn't normally see them play. And we've actually had players in the past, very recent past, play in this tournament, and one ended up going to Boise State, then BYU, and is now playing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So we definitely see value in this game. But that's kind of the details of the trip in a general sense. But if there's anything else you'd like me to add or any questions, that would be.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Darren. I will open it up for questions.
Question.
Cheryl.
Thank you for that presentation. I'm just wondering if there's been any consideration to additional security requirements or concerns about traveling into the United States that students are being sort of informed on, like potential device searches and that type of thing?
I think your question is kind of difficult to answer. We always try to be prepared, I guess is what I'm saying. But at the same time, whenever you're going into the US, and I understand right now, every year it seems to get a little more complicated, for sure. And I totally understand the lay of the land there, and we don't always know what's coming to us. What we try to do the best we can is follow our procedures as closely as possible. And when we don't know something, we certainly don't just wing it. We find out what we need to do, but we don't always know exactly what's coming our way. As far as any instances of our students being unsafe, we always travel to areas that we feel confident are safe. Of course, anything can happen. We've always had really good experiences there, but we certainly have, as I provided the district, just our protocols that we follow to make sure that our students are taken care of.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I am looking for a motion, please. Christina.
I move that the Lethbridge Collegiate Institute trip to Pocatello, Idaho, USA in September 2026 be approved by the board on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed and with the understanding that future travel advisories and/or vaccination requirements may affect the trip's ability to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a great
for your
trip.
time. Yeah, thank you.
All right, we will now move forward to 11.9. Just have to find it here. Joint Committee of Lethbridge School Boards and the City of Lethbridge. No, this is the action item. Yes. Okay, so our Board of Trustees, along with the Board of Trustees for Holy Spirit Catholic School Division, as well as Franco Sud, have been advocating for the continuation of the Joint City School Boards Committee. I presented at the Community Issues Committee on May 19th, and I submitted to the committee an updated terms of reference that is attached to this memo. You'll see within this memo that there has also been a change in name to the committee. It is now the Joint Committee of Lethbridge School Boards and the City of Lethbridge, and this name change is to reflect the leadership that school boards will be taking on this committee. And so I would like to move that this City School Boards Committee be renamed the Joint Committee of Lethbridge School Boards and the City of Lethbridge, and that the terms of reference for the Joint Committee of Lethbridge School Boards and the City of Lethbridge be accepted as presented, with these changes reflected in Exhibit 203.6.A accordingly. And so I will open it up to comments or questions. Christina.
I have a lot of comments today. I just want to say thank you to the board chair for continuing to steward this work through, in particular, throughout the election cycle and the municipal government's readjustment of how they've participated in committees. Being able to maintain this committee where really important work happens at the governance level between municipal government and local school boards is critical. And while it can feel challenging to sort of be reorganizing committees, which I know that we're doing a lot of that work ourselves, seeing it all the way through to this point has been really valuable. So I appreciate the work to make that table available. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I appreciate that. Any other comments or questions? Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this work being completed. All right, we now move on to 11.10, Student Code of Conduct Review.
Yes, and just so trustees are aware, this is a requirement for the Education Act every year that we need to review the Student Code of Conduct. There were a number of revisions that were completed in December 2024 to this document and approved by the previous board. So it has recently had some work done to the language. Also, I want to make sure you know there are going to be amendments to this based on Bill 25. That's going to be a requirement. Could have waited, but we have to review it under the Education Act anyways. I could have tried to muddle my way through in terms of what I thought it was going to be, but I felt like, and I think I know, but I'm not 100% sure. So I just felt it was better. Let's do our normal review process. And then when we have the information from Bill 25 and there's an implementation date, we'll review it at that time. So we may have to review it again in a short period of time, but I just wanted you to be aware of that because I'm sure that would have been a question of, well, do we have to amend this anyways? And the answer is yes, that's our understanding at this time. I would still recommend that we review it at this time. And I'll just give you a little bit of here's what the requirements are under the Education Act, that it has to be made publicly available, and it's publicly available on our website. It has to be reviewed every year and then be provided to all staff of the board, students, et cetera, et cetera. Again, it's on the website, so it's there. In terms of the review, the Student Code of Conduct must contain the following elements: a statement of purpose that provides a rationale for the Code of Conduct with a focus on welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning environments. That's what the Education Act is. That's the first 2 to 3 paragraphs of the Student Code of Conduct that give the rationale. So that's where that matches up. Then there has to be 1 or more statements that address the prohibited grounds of discrimination set out in the Alberta Human Rights Act. That's in definition 2, and it's also in clause 2, where it talks about bullying, discrimination, harassment, et cetera, et cetera. Then it has to have 1 or more statements about what is acceptable behavior and what is unacceptable behavior, whether or not it occurs within the school building, during the school day, or by electronic means. So that is clause 3, where it talks about students' behavioral expectations. And then clause 4, unacceptable behaviors include. And then it has to have 1 or more statements about the consequences of unacceptable behavior. which have to take in a variety of factors. And so that's clause 5. So those are the requirements. And then obviously there's some additional things in here, but those are the requirements in the Education Act. And I believe we meet all of them with the Student Code of Conduct. And then again, once Bill 25 is proclaimed, then we will update as necessary.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mike. I am looking for a motion to begin discussion. Christina.
I move that the board approve Appendix A 502.1 Student Code of Conduct as presented.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, those in favor? Excellent. Thank you very much. And that is passed. That is carried. Right, we now move on to 11.12, the YMCA Galbraith, and I will ask if there is anyone who needs to declare a conflict of interest for this item. Christina.
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest. I'm employed by the YMCA, but as clarity, I'm not employed within the department related.
Thank you. And as such, Christina will recuse herself from this discussion.
Okay, so I do have an update on the YMCA Galbraith partnership. This is a follow-up from a motion that was made by trustees on February 25th, 2025. So that motion was that the board authorize administration to provide support to the YMCA in the application of the building blocks grant for a childcare facility as part of the Galbraith modernization. Should funding be received, information will be brought to the board for next steps. Subsequent to this motion, there has been multiple letters or correspondence from the Lethbridge School Division providing support for the building blocks grant. Excuse me. Recently, the YMCA, after negotiation with their building blocks grant, did come to an agreement on grant funding for this project. So we are happy to have that and have them part of the project. So we are bringing this back to the board as an update for next steps. I do have a proposed recommendation for the board to consider as a motion. So I'll just read that out. That the board authorize administration to proceed with entering into a partnership agreement with the YMCA for the construction and operations of a child care facility integrated with the Galbraith Elementary School rebuild project. Happy to take any questions from trustees. Oh, and sorry, just to further, I know this isn't included in the regular agenda package. We'll be making an amendment to that package later this week. So that's updated for public information.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyle. I'm looking for a trustee to move the motion just spoken. Craig, are you putting your hand up to move the motion?
I am, so that everyone knows I'm here.
Excellent. We have not forgotten you, Craig. Thank you. All right, the motion is before us, and I open this up for discussion.
I would just say that I think it's a grand idea that we are incorporating childcare into this education facility. It's a very progressive step forward. So thank you for your work on that.
Craig.
Yes, I am excited that we are partnering with different organizations to allow childcare as part of a school. I think that's a great, as Cheryl pointed out, progressive and a step forward, and hopefully see more of that as we go along with our Minister of Education, Education and Child Care.
Thank you, Craig. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kyle. All right. That brings us to the end of our action items. We have already covered division highlights. There are no information items. There has been no correspondence sent. There has been no correspondence received. And so I will adjourn our meeting today at 5:30 p.m. Thank you, everyone.